What's happening on today's video? It's going to be part 3. We're going to break down the rear brakes. So we got the caliper and the master cylinder. We're going to drain the fluid. We're going to disassemble the caliper, disassemble the master cylinder as much as I can. Of course, the one thing I'm missing is my C-clip pliers. So we're not going to be taking the the guts of the master cylinder out. We'll save that for another day, but I can at least get it disassembled, get the fluid out, get the pistons out of the calipers, and then we'll get it cleaned up, and I'll show you the final product. Alright, we'll go over the tools. So I got needle noses. We're going to need a flathead, number 5 and a number 6 Allen, number 8 wrench, and a nice little pick, so when you take the piston out of the caliper, you can take the seals out gently and carefully. Obviously, you usually replace that stuff, but if it's not leaking when you take it out and you're careful enough, you can reuse it. Like I said, I suggest just going and replacing it, but it's really I've done it before, so don't be scared. So we're going to go ahead and get started and get this broken down. So first thing we're going to do is crack the cap on the master. We're going to take the fluid out. So that would be number 8. And we have a magnetic pan that we can stick bolts in for now. There's going to be a little plastic shim in here and a rubber boot. Make sure you count those and don't lose it or drop it. So we got that out. We're going to go ahead and dump this fluid. Before we do any more bleeding, what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull the brake pads out. So you need your flathead. There's a little cap right here that has a flathead slit in it, a little threaded insert, a little plug. So that usually comes out pretty easy. And under there, you're going to have a number 5 Allen. Usually get more leverage. So, we're moving the whole camera here. Pop this out. These do get corrosion on them and start to get some wear marks in them, so it's not a bad idea to keep these greased and smooth them out a little bit. Obviously, if it's too worn out, replace it. So I'm going to go ahead and pop these pads out, and then what I'm going to do is give the rear brakes a few pumps. Get that piston out as much as I can. This is pretty good. Alright, so we got that. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is pull this bracket out. It just slides on these 2 pins. And then get more excess fluid out. There's still going to be fluid that comes out. You can't prevent that. We'll set these aside, set this bracket aside. We're going to go ahead and take our number 6 and we're going to break the brake line banjo bolt. It could be like a 12 hex head. The Yamaha, it's a number 6. Okay. So always take this brake pad shim off too, so you don't lose it. So I'll go ahead and crack that loose. There's going to be 2 cross washers on each side of the banjo bolt. Caught it. Don't lose them. I got that. So our caliper is now free. You can take it, dump the fluid out. Shout out to Dutchess Wreck, Renegade Apparel. Couldn't find an MX Graphics sticker, but shout out to MX Graphics too. Eric over there is awesome. So, go ahead, get this master, get the brake line off the master. Whew. I'm gonna have to get the torque out for this. Oh, got it. Some of the stuff's easy to do when it's on the bike, but the bike's apart. So, and like I said, always make sure your two benzo bolt washers, the crush washers, come off. There's always going to be residual fluid in the line, so get that out. And take your line and set it aside. Excuse me. So this is where the needle nose comes into play. You're going to get the cotter pin out. This one's going to be stubborn. That out. There's going to be a washer, a pin, and you can slide your brake pedal free. Set that aside. So that's as far as we're going to get with the master. I'm not going to pull this apart yet, just because I've misplaced my C-clip pliers. So yeah, I'll make that another video where we show how to get that C-clip out. It's rather easy. It's just like any old C-clip. So, got that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pull our bleeder, 8mm. Might be a little fluid in there, just a couple drops came out. Wipe everything down when it's a while, just so you don't have a freaking big pile up of brake fluid. Even though you got gloves on, you can still wipe it down. We're going to go ahead and pop this boot out of there. Just kind of take note where each boot goes. I mean, I remember, I've been doing it a while. So, and what we're going to do is try to pop this pin out, which is going to be a 6mm Allen. Might need a lot of force for this, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to pop it out without putting it in the vise. There we got it. We got that out. Next thing we're going to do is I tried to pump. You can, to get the piston out, there's a few different ways to do it. You could pump air through the bleeder hole. I don't do it that way. If you're very gentle, the way I do it, you can use pliers and a rag. Just be super careful. You do not want to scratch the surface of this piston, or you will be replacing it. Yeah, see, that one's pretty in there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get a rag and I'm going to get a pliers, and you really don't need that much pressure. This thing moves naturally, so that's what it's made to do. So you don't need that much pressure to twist it and pop it out. So I'm going to go ahead and get a rag and we'll pop it out. So we got our rag on there. You take the pliers, grab the piston gently. I can feel it twisting. You don't need a lot of pressure. It's going to pop right out. And it is out. So we did that without causing any damage. As long as you're super careful. You want to keep this thing as mint as possible. You don't want to nick it up or anything. So, but absolutely perfect. No scratches on there or anything. That little scratch, that must be from factory. So set that aside. Now we're going to go ahead, we're going to get our pick. We're going to go ahead and get our seals out. So just pop it in there and twist. Like I said, you can reuse the seals if they weren't leaking, but I mean, they're cheap. Just replace them. But if you ever get down to bind, I mean, it doesn't hurt to go and throw these aside. So in case you ever start getting a leak in the future, you have some seals that technically weren't bad. So there you go. Throw them aside. And that's everything. So now we have a broken down caliper. And the master cylinder, we just have to undo this, pull the push rod out, and then there's a C-clip where all the guts will come out. I'll do that in a different video. I'm pulling these apart because I'm going to Cerakote them, so obviously that will be a video further down the series. So that's how you take apart your rear brake system. The front system is literally the same exact process, except you have a brake handle. It's a different bolt, but it's the same thing. Now you're going to face two different pistons in that one. You should be able to use the same technique with the rag and the pliers. Like I said, I can't stress enough how careful you have to be with that. Otherwise, you will ruin the pistons and you'll have to replace them. And they're not expensive, but they're a little more expensive than you would think. So that's that. So we got the front and rear calipers. I'm just going to go ahead and give them a clean. Obviously, I don't need to show that. I think we cleaned enough parts in the last videos. Go ahead and get these clean, and I'll show you what they look like when they're done, and then I'll kind of maybe get into the process explaining a little bit of the prep work for some of the for the Cerakoting that I'm going to be doing. So we got our front and rear calipers cleaned up along with the brackets. Got them scrubbed down and cleaned just with the soap and warm water and rinsed off. But they look really good, just clean. Everything else that's on there is like pretty well baked on. I got the brackets all cleaned up well. Now these are all clean. If I was going to Cerakote them now, what I would do is let them soak in some kind of degreaser solvent, simple green, anything that's not going to leave like a residue. You can let them, they say acetone is the best thing to do if you have an acetone tank, or you can just get a metal pan, something metal, can't be plastic because acetone will eat through it. Something metal, get the acetone, let these soak in there, clean them up, and then sandblast them. Make sure you sandblast with clean media. They recommend not using glass bead because it doesn't etch into the surface well enough. So clean media, don't use glass bead. You're going to sandblast it. Make sure you tape off all your areas that you don't want any sandblast in, this whole surface here and right there, and anything you don't want sand to get in, tape off. It's very, very crucial. So you'd sandblast it, then let it soak again, and then they recommend to bake it. It's recommended. It's not. You don't have to. If you don't have an oven, you're just using air dry Cerakote, you can get like a heat gun and just heat them up, and it kind of makes any impurities, oils that are soaked into the metal, it makes them come out. So then after you do that, you soak them in acetone again, and once you do your final soak of acetone, you do not want to touch the parts with your bare hands because you will contaminate them. And then you can, start applying your Cerakote. So, got this cleaned up. Still got to pull some of the master cylinders apart. I didn't have C-clip pliers today. I seem to misplace them, and then we'll get them pulled apart, get them cleaned up. The only thing is on the master cylinders, I want to use use the oven bake on, but with the sight glasses I can't. Some people get them sight glasses, they'll get them welded up. I'm sure there's a couple companies that do that. I know it's not easy, so unfortunately I'd be using the air cure on that stuff. But the calipers, I can do the high heat, or excuse me, do the bake on stuff, and with no problems, anything to brackets, all that stuff. So that'll be a further video down the line though, before we start reassembling and everything. We've got everything from the rear caliper in here. I'm going to throw it in a bag and label it. That's the easiest way to do it. And yeah, that's that. That's how, it's a pretty simple way to pull apart your brake system. That's that. So we'll see you in the next video.